Are you familiar with the term separate the art from the artist? Basically means that you try and enjoy an artist's work with no consideration at all for their personal life or their opinions. And so that's exactly what we're going to try to do today. We're just going to ignore this whole section of David Ellefson's Wikipedia page because it's, you know. So I just wanted you to know that I know, so that you know that we all know. You know? Anyway, let's get into it because David Ellefson is actually a monster bass player with some sick-ass lines, and a lot of you guys actually specifically requested this, so let's get cracking. So let's talk about gear really briefly, starting with Hartkey. Ellefson has been a Hartkey endorser for a very long time, since about the late 80s, which is perfect because those aluminum cones deliver that top-end snap that he's really known for. Around that same time, he was transitioning from using BC Rich basses to using Jackson basses, and as you know, he would go on to become a pretty prominent Jackson endorser as well. Now, while you may associate his Jackson instruments with the dual humbuckers, at the time he was actually using active PJ instruments. And of course, we can't forget to mention that he's using round wound strings. In fact, if you want to be a tryhard about it, you can get his signature strings from SIT. Additionally, Ellefson always plays with a pick, very specifically these green Dunlop ones that are .88, if it matters. On the subject of picks, his Wikipedia page has a line that just kind of cracks me up. Let me just read it to you. Ellefson plays exclusively with a guitar pick as he is unable to perform in fingerstyle the fast tempos in many Megadeth songs. Like, I can't play some of that stuff fingerstyle either, but goddamn Wikipedia, chill out, man. That said, you can play this stuff fingerstyle and make it sound great, as evidenced by Josh's playthrough on this very channel. Look at him go. Anyway, that's all the time I want to spend on gear. There are other videos that go way more in depth because, like a lot of bass players, Ellefson has experimented with a bunch of stuff over the years, but for our purposes, we've got what we need. The basic Ellefson formula is just Jackson PJ or double humbucker bass into Hartkey bass and cab, and that is it. That said, he has been associated with various pieces of gear over the years, like the MXR DI+, despite never actually using this pedal as far as I can tell. He's also been attached to a couple of chorus pedals over the years, but he really only uses chorus on 2 songs, according to his own words, Dawn Patrol and Poison Was the Cure. But that may just be a thing that he does live because as far as I can tell, there's no chorus on either of those songs on the album. The general overall character of Ellefson's thrash tone is what I would call like plucky and scooped and focused. This tone is designed to wrap around these really heavy mid-focused guitars and massive drums and still be audible. What's interesting to me is that despite being a very scooped tone where you have a lot of the attack and treble coming through, the low end is actually really focused and compressed and never boomy. Not only does this work really well in a metal context, but it also means that everything is super crystal clear and you can do things like play chords no problem. Surprisingly, there's very little overdrive or distortion in Ellefson's tone. It almost sounds dry most of the time, and any of the aggression that you're picking up in it is actually just how hard he's hitting the strings with the pick, and he's usually plucking a little bit closer to the bridge than normal. For example, here is the isolated bass from 5 Magics. At this point, we have everything we need to start replicating this tone, starting with the bass that I'm going to use today, which is my 1988 Aria XRB, which is perfect because it has EMG Geezer PJ pickups, EMG being another company that Ellefson endorses, and also a headstock that you can stab somebody with, which is important. I'm actually going to be using mostly the P pickup for these tone samples and only mixing the J in a little bit where needed, because it really seems that that's what Ellefson is doing, and it makes sense because there are actually a fair number of pictures of him in the studio with Fender P basses. Whoever said you can't play metal on a P bass is smoking the wrong stuff. As usual, I'm also going to be building this patch in my Zoom B1X4 just because this is the simplest, easiest way to demonstrate these tones and then share them with you. That'll be available on my Patreon for free. You don't have to pay, but if you want to shoot me $1 once a month, I'd greatly appreciate it. So we don't have a Hartkey emulated on the Zoom, but that's fine because I found that their version of an SWR SM400 actually is about as good a stand-in as you could ask for. It has that nice dry quality that we're going for with Ellefson's tone. We're also going to be pairing that up with the EB410TW because it does a nice job of emphasizing the high mids and treble content like you'd get out of the aluminum coned Hartkey stuff. I'm also going to be throwing in this Dynacomp in front of the amp, which is going to help us tighten everything up. Compression can be such a subtle thing, and I don't have it dialed in like really aggressively here, but it does make everything feel a bit better. It's one of those things that you only notice when it's gone. Bear in mind here too that we're not just trying to copy Ellefson's raw tone, but rather his recorded tone, which is definitely going to have been compressed at multiple times throughout the recording process. This is how it sounds so far. Now what's cool about this tone is that we can actually travel back in time just by rolling off the tone knob, and then you get the tone that you might hear on something like Peace Sells. Not only can we travel in time backwards, but we can go forwards in time to the newer stuff just by adding one other pedal. And this is going to be hilarious, but what I found that worked really, really well for this is the MXR DI Plus, a pedal that he supposedly doesn't even use. Worth noting here too is that when I compared the Zoom's version to the real thing, they sound identical. Zoom's version of this pedal is damn near perfect. And if you want to see how that sounds, back to back, I've got a video on that. But this is how it sounds for our Ellefson patch. So, how did I do? Let me know down in the comments as well as who you'd like to see on a future episode of How to Sound Like. As always, the Zoom patch is going to be on my Patreon, both as a downloadable file that you can load into Guitar Lab and then send to your pedal, or if you want to just look at the settings and then, mimic them on your pedal, that is there too, and it is free. You don't have to be a patron, though if you want to be like these people and shoot me $1 or more every month, it is greatly appreciated and helps me churning these out faster and with greater quality. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you on the next one. AMP out!